Hi there, Eden here. I'm going to share 5 tips with you about how to cultivate healthy hormones and pain-free periods. So, we're going to talk about, from an Ayurvedic perspective, what might be at the cause of our symptoms like headaches, exhaustion, emotional upheaval, um, bloatedness, cramping, so many symptoms, and there are deeper symptoms as well that can show up. And the two things that we're always going to look at first and foremost are lifestyle and digestion. So, we're going to look at those things and try to understand what might be the root cause of some of these symptoms. And then I'm going to share 5 tips to help address what might be throwing us out of balance. Okay, so first let's back up a little bit and let's go back to the time that we first got our period. And this may have been, we might have had mixed feelings about it, mixed emotions, and different circumstances for each one of us, very unique situations involved. But probably for most of us, my guess is that it was a big deal, right? It was like, it's here. And you didn't know when it was going to come, and then it came and it was there, and it's pretty powerful. And why is it a big deal? Because it's built into the intelligence of our body, the innate intelligence of our body. And we didn't really have any control over when it was going to come or how it was going to look or any of that. And so I say this because it's a reminder of the fact that our body has this innate intelligence, its innate rhythm and cycles, and it's connected to the seasons and cycles of Mother Nature, to the moon, to the lunar cycle. And so, fast forward 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and we're kind of like, yeah, we have our period. It comes every month, and we know the drill, and or we may celebrate it, we may honor it, we may have different ways of feeling about it, but it becomes sort of like it is what it is. And then for some of us, it might be something that we're kind of dreading because of all of the symptoms that show up around it that can be pretty debilitating and that can really kind of immobilize us sometimes. And so I want to talk about coming back first and foremost into that sense of understanding the deep connection between our body and the rhythms and cycles of Mother Nature, and why that's important. Why it's important is because that's what keeps us in balance. That's what keeps our hormones in balance. And when that's out of balance, when there's disharmony, like when we don't have regular sleep cycles, when we're not eating at the best, most optimal times of the day, when our stress is through the roof and we're just going, when we need to be resting, especially around right when our bleeding, this is what's going to lead to an imbalance. So let's start with number one about getting ourselves into balance and creating healthy hormones. Number one would be when right around that time of the month when our cycle is about to happen, and when it comes, this is when we want to slow down. We want to slow down pretty much everything we're doing. We want to slow down how we're eating, like just go at it a little more slowly. We want to slow down our activities. We want to slow down our minds and our movement. So it's not a time to be doing power yoga if that's your thing, or like this super sweaty vinyasa flow, or soul cycle, or any of those kinds of running. Like, this is really a time that, yeah, we can move and we can help the flow of our body, but we don't want to be overexerting ourselves. We really do want to slow down. We have what's called a panavayu happening, this downward flow of prana, of energy, moving down and out through us. It's very similar to when we're giving birth. And so what happens is when we don't slow down and we don't cooperate with Mother Nature and how she's moving through us down and through, then the prana starts going back up into our heads. We can't flow naturally through our cycles. It's going up and up and up. And physiologically what happens is it's because our bodies are really intended to be slowing down during that period, our adrenals are having to work overdrive, and they're producing more cortisol to keep up with the activity. And the cortisol, they can't keep up usually, so they're borrowing from our reproductive organs, and liver and thyroid and everything is kind of is getting tapped out at that time. So we're going to lead to more depletion if we don't cooperate with that downward pull. And I remember when I used to get really bad cramps, and it felt like literally someone was reaching up inside me and squeezing and pulling. And it was because I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening to its messages. And I was just going. And you don't even want to know what I was up to. But it was really my body's way of saying, this symptom was saying to me, slow down. The pain was saying it's time. Like, you need to be moving down towards the earth and grounding and allowing this flow to move that direction. And so when our symptoms show up, they're messengers from our body that we're not really cooperating or listening to the natural rhythm and flow. So we just need to honor that and listen to it. So speaking of slowing down, let's get to number 2. Number 2 is, if you're not already doing this, you really want to be tracking our cycles. We want to have some knowledge of when it might be coming. If we have really irregular and fluctuating cycles, that's something that we can talk more about. We can talk on it one-on-one if you'd like, or in future videos. But even with that, getting a sense when it does show up, having a special journal or calendar where we can mark it down, and that way we have an idea of how it's moving through us, and that gives us information about the symptoms and messages that are happening in our bodies. So keeping track, the other piece of that that's related to slowing down is when you know you're having your cycle's going to show up a few days before, you can start kind of scaling down on your schedule. And I know that we are all really busy and we're just keeping up with life, a lot of us, and it's hard to think of scaling down, but it's so essential. And there are different ways we can each do that in our own lives. We can call in, hopefully our community or our friends, our family, our partners to say, hey, we need, a little extra support with the kids, or at work, it's not a time to be scheduling big presentations or negotiations. So it's a time when we want to have at least a day, during when we're bleeding, to kind of really have a lot less going on for us, and a lot less required of us. So if we're keeping track, not only can we start to notice the patterns with our cycles, which gives us information about our health, but we can schedule around that and try to get a little bit more control around that time of our lives to let go. Control to let go. Yeah. So number 3, a lot of times when we have symptoms showing up, like we have breast tenderness, we have breakouts. I used to get a lot of breakouts around my chin here. We have swollen limbs and fingers and toes and big bloated bellies, and that's a sign that our lymphatic flow isn't quite flowing. So we want to we really want to support our lymphatic system. And I'm going to share more deeply about all of these things in a blog that I've posted on my website at Soma Sister, so you can read more about where I'm getting this information besides my own life experience, and more specifics about it. But so supporting our lymphatic flow is really essential to reducing symptoms around our cycle. So right around our cycle, the one way we can do this is we can be drinking warm water about every 20 minutes. It might be hard to remember, but try to just keep like a thermos with you. You can add certain digestive spices to your water even, and I'll share more, like I said, about that on the blog. And that helps keep the flow moving, and we want to support the flow. We want to support this essentially what is a detoxification and transformation in our body, and it's a release. And so if you think about, like I said, slowing down, just grounding, getting a little closer to the earth, offering some warm fluids, it's going to help with that movement downward as opposed to upward. So nothing cold, no cold drinks. This is like warm in general. We really want to try to have warm or room temperature water, but especially around this time, more fluids, more fluids, the days leading up to it and the days through it. And supporting our digestion, speaking of the lymphatic system, right around our cycles, we want to eat less, and we want to eat warm, easily digestible foods with lots of spices. That's a side note. Really important to consider that our digestion is working a little harder, and it's a little we have a little less Agni or digestive fire during our period because there's all this activity down here happening, digesting all of the reproductive flow here. So ease up, notice what your cravings are, without, if you can, succumbing to them. And if you do, that's okay. Just notate them, because that's another message from your body letting you know where the imbalances are. And like I said, we'll talk more about that. But we're just sticking to these basics, which sound so simple, but they're so profound, so life-changing, and so supportive and nourishing. The last and final tip that I want to share is, if you can have a ritual that you do when you're on your cycle, when you're bleeding, every time, it could be different, but you're going to offer the self-care ritual to yourself. For me, because of this lymphatic flow that I want to support, what I do is something called abhyanga. So you get warm, usually sesame oil, because it's very grounding. You warm it up and you just massage yourself, circular around the joints, long ones around your limbs. You sit in that warm sesame oil, or whatever oil, organic oil you want to choose, and breathe. It also supports the lymphatic system. So for me, that's my ritual. And you get in your undies, you're in a warm environment, hopefully, by yourself. It can be really nice. And if you have something else that would be a great ritual for you, like journaling, or walking in nature, or meditating, but bring some breath, really bring some breath into that ritual. It would be so supportive of moving energy through you and down and out. So if you have any questions about any of these tips, feel free to DM me, or you can contact me at eden@somasister.com. My website is somasister.com, SOMASISTER. And there'll be more specifics about how all of this works physiologically, where it's coming from, and some specific spices and herbs that you can bring into your body. But we really do want to start with these basics first. They're really going to help set us up for success. And I look forward to connecting more. I hope this is nourishing and information for you, and wishing you lots of hormonal balance and an easeful cycle and flow. Okay, thanks for tuning in.